Hey, everybody, welcome to the CNC with Dave show. I hope y'all are excited about tonight's show. I'm excited, but not so much talking about finishes because that's not my thing. But I do have some exciting news that I'm going to share with y'all here in just a little bit, or at least it's exciting to me. May not be to y'all. But anyway, we're going to go through and introduce our panel members. And I guess I'll start over on my right with the little fella from New Zealand.
Oh, good day, Dave. How you going? It's a bit of a swallow here. I live in New Zealand, and you find me under the name of CNC Nuts on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and anything else.
All right. Thanks for being here tonight, Peter. Glad you could make it. Or actually, I guess it's today for you, isn't it? It's like the middle afternoon.
Yeah, 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Next, we have Mr. Mertzke. I don't know if he may be having some issues right now. So we'll skip over him and come back to him. How about Mark?
Hey, good evening, folks. My name is Mark Lindsay. You can find me here on Facebook, especially down in the comments section. And you can find me here on Facebook, here on YouTube. You can also find me on Facebook, especially in the comments section. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter under this name, and I'm also on my website, marklindsaycnc.com. Thank you for having me, Dave.
Okay, I see Mr. Mertzke made it back, so let's go back and let him introduce himself while they still got a connection. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, sorry about that. Lovely hotel internet again. Mike Mertzke here, Mertzke Custom Woodworking. You can find links to all my social media over at mertzkecustomwoodworking.com.
All right, thanks for being here, Mike.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, next we've got Juan.
Guys, Juan Lopez from Dallas, Texas. You can find me here on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram under G Code One Design. Thanks for having me, Dave.
All right, appreciate you being here tonight, Juan. And next we got Jerry. I guess we got two Jerrys. I guess Jerry Blakesley.
I'm Jerry Blakesley. You can find me just about anywhere under Jerry's Machines. Thanks for having me, Dave.
All right, appreciate you being here, Jerry. And next we have the other Jerry, Mr. Brown, wearing his new awesome shirt, I see.
Yes, Jerry Brown, Pollywantsacrafter, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and pollywantsacrafter.com.
All right, very good. Thanks for being here tonight, Jerry. We probably got another one or two folks that may join us here in a little bit. And when they do, we'll let them introduce themselves as well. But tonight we're going to talk about finishing your project, whether it be stain, paint, lacquer, what have you, that kind of stuff. And I actually was going to do, I remembered I was going to do another tip, but I'm actually doing it for Russ Meadows, and he hadn't joined us yet, so I'll save it and see if he shows up. Anyhow, I got some good news earlier this evening, or at least it's good news to me. It should be good news for everybody in the CNC community, I think. But I've been mentioning the GoFundMe for Tim at Dumpster CNC. And that GoFundMe campaign is still active. So if you got a few bucks and want to make a donation, they can sure use it. But I got an email from Tim at about 5:30 tonight, and he is kind of temporarily back in business. He's still missing a bunch of tools and fixtures and stuff. If you looked at those pictures of his shop, I mean, you can imagine it's probably scattered all over the county from the tornado that hit him. But he says he does have everything he needs to run the Gatton kits, which that's the cool part. So he's kind of limiting his production to making those right now. And he also sent me a link. I've already put the link back on the DaveGatton.com website because, you know, if you just go to www.dumpstercnc.com, you'll see the tornado pictures and all that. He doesn't have any of that other. But if you go to my website where I had that link, and you click on the where it says Gatton CNC Kits, it will take you straight to the page, just like it was before. The link I had used to take you to his website, and then you would click on that link, Gatton CNC Kits. Well, now we're kind of just skipping that step and going straight to it. So he's going to start making those again. So if anybody was holding off because of that, you can go for it now, because he's going to start working them out. He did tell me that he's kind of set up, like I said, it's kind of temporary, because he's at his late father-in-law's house is where he's got his stuff set up. And I guess him and his wife are looking around, getting ready to buy a house, you know, because his other one was pretty much wiped out. So that's all good news, and I wish him well, and hope that he can, everything will go smooth for him in his transition, getting into a new home and shop and all that kind of stuff. So that's got to be a major pain in the butt that I wouldn't want to have to go through. But anyway, that was the good news there.
I just posted the link to that page, the Dumpster CNC Gatton CNC Kits, over here in the YouTube chat. And if it doesn't end up in the description of the video, I'll put it in the comments too.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, you can go to the DaveGatton.com website, because if you just click on that Gatton, where it says Dumpster CNC Gatton Kits, that it'll take you right to that page. So, okay. The other little thing I wanted to mention before we start talking about finishing is, you know, next week we're going to do that show and tell show. You know, so I've asked folks to, you know, send me pictures of one or two of your projects, and we'll show them off for you in next week's show. And so far, I've gotten pictures from one person. So I know maybe everybody's waiting till the last minute. I don't know, but anyway, just want to remind everybody of that. So if you got a cool project you've done, you know, take some pictures of it, send it to me, and we'll show it off at the show and tell next week. And usually those are pretty popular shows, I thought. But anyway, all right. So tonight we're going to talk about finishing your project, and I'm probably going to pick on some of my panel members. Because you know, I see them post stuff on Facebook all the time, some of them, of stuff they've made and all that. So first off, I think I'm going to pick on my buddy Juan there, because I know he's made some really cool signs. He's giving me the look. He's made some really cool signs, especially that big one that you made here recently, Juan. Why don't you kind of tell folks what kind of prep work you had to do for that, or, you know, just go through the steps on how you made that sign.
Sure. You'd be surprised, actually. The idea the actual paint idea I got from Mark Graves. So if you go back and watch the show of Mark Graves, I use all of his tips to do the finishing I do now. The paint I used, and I'll actually show it to y'all. And there is a transparent, there's a transparent version, and there is a solid version, or semi-transparent. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but for what it's worth, it's
okay,
the deck
Bear,
paint.
so I'm assuming you bought that at Home Depot?
Home Depot, and solid color. So they have a solid and transparent. And these are great. They are great because of the fact that you don't have to, I don't know if you've heard, I'm pretty sure y'all heard me mention as far as to having to clear coat and then sand and then paint and then clear coat again, just so that it won't seep into the grain itself. But this paint is awesome. It won't seep into the grain at all. So that's all I use since Mark turned me on to that. So.
Okay, cool. So you put that on before you cut it?
Yeah, if you want the effect of just the solid color with the light wood grain looking letters, I apply that first. But if you want the dark letters, just go ahead and apply the black once you cut it, or once you do your engraving, sand it off, and just apply the stain, the semi-transparent stain. And they have really nice colors. They have real nice dark walnutty type finishing colors. And just be careful that you don't go into the black. And if you do, it's really easy to wipe off. So, and it's real great stuff to use. Or that's what I use mostly.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And also for people who may not know what sign we're talking about, this was a large sign, and I'm assuming you used the tiling feature.
I did not. I usually, when I do work, and I've done work like this, I just put my own points of where I want to start my work at, and I dowel pin. I like doweling a lot. I'll either dowel pin or break my work into segments that I could evenly work on it, and just set my zero, because I know my machine limitations, and just keep moving it myself and make 3 or 4 different programs than the tiling feature. But I'm sure the tiling feature would be great for that. It's just that I've done it this way for so long that I'm used to it and it works for me.
Yeah, well, I've been using that V-carve Pro for so long that, you know, I used to have to do it that way that you did because they didn't have the tiling feature. So I'm kind of like you. If I was to do that, I'd probably not even use the tiling just because I know how to split the programs up anyway.
Yeah.
Because that's how you have to used to have to do it that way. So, okay, well, cool. That's and that stuff again, folks. That's Bear Premium.
Yeah, I've had a couple of requests over here. If you could hold those cans up again for a second, Ron.
Yeah, I was taking notes myself when he was holding them up, and that's a Home Depot brand. I think that Bear is. Hold on, let me lock it on you here, Juan. Oops. There we go.
Then again, there's a semi-transparent and there's solid colors.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've got 2 other questions here while you're holding those up. One is, do you use just a standard polyurethane clear coat over the top of that, or how do you clear coat over?
Let me get the clear too.
Oh, okay.
Well, I really don't.
Oh, okay.
It's polyurethane.
Just standard polyurethane? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I like the satin one, the satin color, or the satin
Finish.
finish.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I prefer a satin or a semi-gloss. Now, is any of that water-based, or is it all oil-based?
It's water-based.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Great. Now, the other question I have for you is, I know some places they have the standard colors like you've got there, but then they will also custom mix colors for you. Do they do that there at Home Depot?
I haven't asked. Haven't had the need to ask, but I mean, I'm sure they would.
Okay. And we've got another question over here. You have you've used that indoors. I mean, you don't get a bunch of fumes or anything like that. It doesn't stink like some of the exterior grade products.
It doesn't. It does not. It doesn't have that strong odor as far as no, it doesn't.
Cool. I just haven't tried it yet. I want
Like
to.
the shellac stuff and all that other.
Okay. All right, we're caught up then.
Okay, very good. Well, thanks, Juan, for sharing all that information with us. I didn't mean to put you on the spot there, but that big sign was still fresh on my mind because I hadn't been that long since you posted that, and that thing really turned out awesome.
Cool.
And I want to pick on somebody else on the panel here. I know Mr. Mertzke, while he's got a Wi-Fi connection there, he makes some pretty awesome flags. You want to talk about those a little bit, Mike?
Yeah, sure. The flags, I mean, the only parts I use the CNC for are the stars. For the burnt oak version, I carve out the stars, and then for my traditional version, I actually cut out the maple stars. For finishing that, I actually just use a satin spray lacquer. Just use a couple coats of that, and you know, it's something that's just hung on the wall indoors, so it really doesn't need a really durable finish. But I really like the look of that satin on the wood. So,
How do you keep it from bleeding?
from what? From bleeding?
Across your lines.
So for the traditional version of my flag, I use different species of woods for the different colors. So I don't use any kind of stain or anything. I actually use the different species for the different colors. And then for my burnt oak version, it's all quarter sawn white oak, but you know, the darker ones are just burned using kind of the Shishugi bond technique.
And that, did you say you use the exterior grade or the interior?
Interior.
Interior? Okay. Okay, great. And do you spray your finishes on, or do you tend to brush them?
No spray. And that's just, especially with a spray lacquer, you know, it dries so quickly. I mean, you know, within 15 minutes, you can put on another coat. So.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody's asking if you do a Canadian flag.
Sure.
Or,
I'll do any flag.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll do whatever a client wants me to make.
Okay.
There you go.
We have another question here for One Up Woodwork, and I think it's from for Juan. He wants to know if you are spraying your poly or if you are brushing it on. He's curious, since it's water-based, can it be thinned with water for HVLP spraying?
I'm sure it can.
Yeah.
I'm sure it can be thinned, but I brush it on.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Mike, for
And sorry to interrupt, but if I remember correctly, I believe Mark Graves said that he does even the colored ones, the bare finishes. Because I was talking about the clear coat, but even the bare finishes, I believe he actually uses his airbrush to apply it sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of thinking that it's possible.
Yeah.
I think
I've never sprayed deck stain out of anything but a pump up, like a weed sprayer on a deck or on a fence. But I know you can spray stains. I have done that.
I've done it.
I've used HVLP with it.
Yeah, the poly, you shouldn't even have to thin it. You should be able to just spray it.
Cool.
I don't thin it.
okay.
Water-based poly is pretty thin as it sits.
How about you, Mr. Brown? Would you like to enlighten us with some of your finishing tips?
Well,
Without giving away
learn a lot. I've had to learn a lot of different techniques because I just recently started getting into MDF. And this is a sign I made for outside. So it completely had to be coated good. And it's got just regular spray paint on it. And it's sealed really nice. Problem with that is you can't paint, like the beak has to be a different color. So I got to sand that and then recoat it. And I just bought, I buy the brush on poly and we coat it a couple good times. And then after the final sand, we'll use the spray. But I go through so many cans of spray, it was getting too expensive. And I'm going to get an HVLP system probably this week.
Mhm.
But other than that, the colored signs that I do where the words are painted, I have been pushing my luck, I guess, with no pre-stain or sealer. And I haven't had any bleed through yet, but I just use house latex. And it seems to work fine.
Mhm.
Are you using an interior or exterior?
I think for, I go by whatever I have at the time. I've been mixing interior and exterior because I was making an outside sign, so I got exterior. And I wasn't paying attention, and I think I got some interior. But I think once you put it on and sand off the overspray, once you clear coat it, it doesn't matter if it was in or out. They both don't bleed though. Some of the oil might, but nothing yet.
Cool, cool.
Okay, since somebody mentioned the HVLP sprayer, is anybody on our panel here, do they currently have any kind of sprayer that they use?
I actually went and brought 2 of them because they always look really easy to use on the advertisements, but I really haven't had a lot of luck with them.
So I have an HVLP, but I've found that depending on the project, well, for one, not having kind of a dedicated spray area, like a spray booth or something like that. And then depending on the size of the project, I've just found that in my current shop setup, you know, kind of pulling out the HVLP is kind of overkill. And you have a lot more kind of overspray with that versus, you know, like for a lot of my projects, even my flags, or I'll get a lot of client requests for like the metal racks for marathons or triathlons and stuff like that. So smaller stuff like that and small signs. I've just found rattle can spray lacquer's just been easier.
Yeah, for the most part,
Obviously,
it's not worth cleanup. Yeah, it's not worth cleaning up the gun and everything else for most things.
If I'm doing a piece of furniture or something like that, then yeah, I'll break out the HVLP to, you know, I've sprayed water-based poly on some furniture and stuff like that. But something small, yeah, juice isn't worth the squeeze. I've found.
Yeah, it's a whole lot easier just to throw that empty can away than have to stop and clean something up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm just getting started with it. I've got just a couple of cheap guns from that well-known purveyor of imports from the East. And I'm finding that I like what I'm doing so far. I don't know enough about it, I guess, to know whether I'm getting a good finish or a bad finish, because I'm so used to going back and sanding and then flowing on a top coat that it's working out okay for me. It's still new to me. I've never had the equipment and a person to teach me how to use it at the same time. And I figure I'm 56 years old, quit using that excuse and just do it. So I am, and it's working out. But I'm not, I don't have any here with me, so I hesitate to name any brands, but I'm not getting it at my local big box store. I'm going to Sherwin-Williams, and I'm using their vinyl sanding sealer and their pre-cat lacquer. And before anybody asks me to hold up a can, I don't have any here. It's all out in the shed. Hit your local Sherwin-Williams and they'll hook you right up. Vinyl sanding sealer and pre-catalyzed lacquer.
That's all I use is the Sherwin-Williams projects.
Yeah.
That machine that I just painted, that's all that was Sherwin-Williams automotive paint.
Yep.
Mhm.
And you can tell, I mean, the difference is night and day. The flow on that and the way it just levels out, it's man, it's nice.
That's the big key that I see with a lot of people with the guns is they don't put down enough paint. They don't adjust it out right, and they're not putting out enough paint for it to flow together and lay down. And then when you look at it, it looks like it has a lot of overspray on it, when in reality it wasn't a good buildup to begin with.
Yep. And that was my fatal mistake. That was what I was doing. I was afraid of getting runs and sags,
Right.
so I was holding it back too far, and it was drying before it hit the project.
The key with the gun is to lay what I call a pamper coat, and take the gun and lay out a fog coat, let it tack up a little bit, and then you can really lay the liquid to it, whether it's clear coat or paint or whatever. You can really lay it to it, and it won't sag and run as easy. But you've got to get it good and wet for it to lay in together and form a nice finish.
Yeah.
The pamper coat's very, to me, it's a necessity. You got to have it, or you're not going to get good adhesion anyway.
Yeah. I'm, like I said, I'm still learning a lot of it, and but I've got some beautiful looking 2x4s out there in the process. And again, this is another one of those jump on Craigslist and grab the free fence boards that are there in the free section, and I just run them through the planer and paint the devil out. I mean,
the other thing, I notice a lot of people make a mistake with trying to keep crisp, clean edges on things. That corner, nothing's going to stick to it. You've got to knock that corner down slightly to get it to stick, or it's just that's going to be your weak point.
Yep. We've got a question over there in the chat. It's already scrolled up, and I had to go back and get it. It's for you, Peter. Joseph Connor says, what type of paint do you use for your yard art? Latex, enamel, acrylic?
Oh, well, it's latex paint, or acrylic, which I think is the same thing. I'm actually using test pots because the test pot supplier, or the paints supplied in the test pot, are actually an outdoor rated paint, which is quite handy for me. But it's an outdoor. People use it. It's called Lumberside. It's a flat paint. It's not glossy, but it's you can paint your house and the stuff if you so wanted. So it's that type of paint there. It's a good quality outdoor paint. I'm just very lucky I can get it in test pots, because a lot of test pots you see are interior only and they look horrible. But yeah, and if you had to buy half a litre of a decent outdoor paint, it probably cost an arm and a leg. So, but yeah, it is an outdoor paint. Yeah.
Do you get
one of the important things when doing that is to undercoat first too, because it makes a big difference.
Do you notice a difference in the latex fading quicker in the sun than, say, an enamel?
No, that's generally all we use here in this country is the acrylic paints. Oil-based outdoor paints are almost a thing of the past, really. Yeah, because doesn't oil-based go chalky after a while, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, the nature of the yard art that I do, it's generally not out in the weather all year round. It's only out for a month or two, and then it's back inside. So it'll take many years before it even sees a full season, really. But I have seen some of the stuff I did for some other people, and they seem to be okay even after a year. So.
Well, you're talking to somebody that doesn't take their Christmas lights down year round, so.
Oh no, this was something entirely different.
He still got his Christmas tree in the bed of his truck. So.
I just turn them on when the season's here.
Spray paint another coat of green on it, is it?
Yep.
Ted Krieger over there in the chat says he could listen to Peter talk all day.
Uh-oh.
All right. Anybody
Well,
else have anything they want to talk about as far as their finishing techniques or?
We'll jump
I
in
haven't-
if you like. Oh, you sorry.
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, well, I was saying to Dave earlier that I actually hate finishing projects. I sort of come up with easier ways of doing things if I can. So what I like is waxes. So here's one here. This one's called Kiwi Wax. I don't know if you can see it very well. But it's basically just a paste wax, furniture type wax. Just wipe it on with a rag. Wax on, wax off type arrangement, and it just gives you a nice clear finish coat on your project. But one of the ones I also really like is this one here. It's a Bry wax. This one's a Renew coloured wax. It's a paste. It's coloured, so when you put it onto your material, something like pine. It colours the wood for you as well as giving you a finished coating on it. And I actually did a video on that showing that it's almost impossible to screw this up. I actually put some tape across some of the wood and waxed it so that the only part of the wood got the wax, and then I came across with a second coat and you couldn't tell where I'd actually been the first time. So it's incredibly forgiving, and just basically just wipe it on and wipe it off, and you've got a nice finish coat. Put a couple of layers on if you wish. So that's one finishing technique I quite like. Another is oils. I like using oils because, again, you can just come along a bit later and put some fresh oil on if you wish. Linseed oils, teak oil, things like that. And some of the other oils, linseed oil will just give you a coloration, which you can then, once it's all nice and dry, you can come along and put a coating on, a polyurethane or a water-based finish. But other oils like teak oil and I think Danish oil and things like that, you can actually just add more layers on. It gets shinier as you go. You just put those oils on, and they're a finish in themselves. So yeah, I quite like the oils as well.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of guitar build videos, particularly guitar bodies here lately. And there's one young fella, I can't think of his name now, Mixter or something like that. I think he's in Arizona, somewhere out there where it's dry. And anyway, he came up with a finish. I mean, he's just using it wasn't Danish oil. I'm trying to think of what it was, gun oil or something like that. But I mean, that's all, he said that's all he used, and it really came out really nice. And it made me think I need to remember what he used, because it's simple. So, and like I said, I'm not one that's real keen on finishing stuff anyway, mostly because I don't have the opportunity to run a whole lot of stuff. But anyway, that was something I thought was interesting, the way he did that. Mark's holding something up here. Let's see what he's...
Yeah, it's Birchwood KC True Oil rifle stock finish. I use it on guitar necks and guitar bodies.
You know what? Now that you've said True Oil, I believe that's what it was that this guy had.
It's my go-to finish for guitar necks, and if I want a real nice, transparent, semi-transparent finish, I use it for the body as well. There are people who color True Oil. There are people who will actually put down a coat of True Oil, let it dry for about a week, week and a half, and then start building up nitrocellulose lacquer over the top of it. You just have to make sure that it's cured. I know a lot of folks say that they absolutely despise finishing. But to me, that's where the fun begins. I get my moment of zen out of it, number one. But I have all kinds of fun with finishes. And I mean, you can get into oil finishes, you can get into glazes, you can get into 3 and 4 layers and get that, foot deep look in them. And true oil's one of the ways to start. Just know that it's labor intensive. I mean, you will be there for a long time. It took me, everything all totaled about 4 hours to do one guitar neck. Excuse me. But I made the mistake of offering to put a hand rub oil finish on a spinning wheel for my niece. I don't have a picture of it. And I true oiled the entire spinning wheel. And that was a 16-hour ordeal. So just be careful that it can be pretty labor intensive. So, but you will get a finish that just absolutely glows. And I did that finish 2 years ago, and she still gets comments on it. People wondering, what's that finish? What's that finish? So, but
I think.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think a point sometimes people they might overlook is one is finding the right finish for the piece. You can't have, I don't think you should have like a finish, and don't be afraid to play around with different finishes. Spray lacquer is not gonna fit the bill for all of them. When you start talking about outdoor projects and stuff like that, you're gonna want to put something that's a little more with some UV protectant. I know people that'll use like a marine urethane for outdoor projects and stuff like that. But on the same note, that can't be your one and only finish because it might be a little overkill to, for something that's hanging in your living room. But yeah, don't be afraid to try it. For a while, I was pre-finishing like small signs and stuff, anything that I would paint, letters and stuff like that. I would, pre-finish it. And then I would, for a while I was using spray paint and I would just mask off different colors and stuff like that. Come to find out, I was creating all this extra work for myself. So for like different colors, I just got some craft paint brushes and then some small tubes of acrylic craft paint, and you can get every color under the sun. Paint in whatever the letters, whatever you've cut out and stuff like that, and then almost next to no sanding, and then go ahead and finish it. But if I hadn't have played around, I'd still be doing the same thing I was doing before, wasting a lot of time and material.
Yep.
So experiment.
Yeah.
I got a question I want to ask everybody on the panel and anybody out there watching too, if they want to chime in. I haven't heard anybody talk about using like contact paper to mask. Has anybody done that? I've seen in forums people talking about that, and has anybody tried that?
I've tried it and I didn't really have any good results with it. So I don't know if I was using the wrong paper. Maybe all my bits are dull. I don't know. I didn't get good results with it. I have a bunch of contact paper if anyone wants it.
I haven't tried it, but I'm going to. And I'm going to try several different contact paper. I'm going to try some transfer paper from sign making industry. I'm going to try just plain old masking tape. I'm going to give it a shot because I've heard various different reviews of the technique.
Yeah, I've tried masking tape and that didn't work very well at all. And here recently I tried just regular old contact paper. I think I picked it up at like Michael's or, which is like a Hobby Lobby type place. And, of course I put down spray lacquer first to kind of seal it. And then I even bought a little rubber roller so that when I put that contact paper on, I could really roll it down good, get all the bubbles out, and and then I let it set a while and everything. But it's kind of difficult, at least, I mean, it was okay. I left it on when I painted because I figure if I'm sloppy, at least it'll stop some of it. But it didn't do that great. And I guess it's because it doesn't work that well with a V-bit. If you're using a down spiral, it might keep from pulling it up. But
yeah, One Up Woodwork over here just commented that contact paper works great as long as you use a down cut bit.
Yeah. And like I said, I thought, well, because I went ahead and put like 3 coats of lacquer on it, and then I thought, well, let me go ahead and try this just to see. And like I said, it got kind of where I was using the V-bit, it pulled it up a little bit, and I just kind of tried to press it down. I thought, well, it's not going to be perfect, but at least it will still mask some of it. So I didn't really have to be that careful when I was using the little, and like Mike said, I got some just craft paint, in the little squirt bottles, and then used a little tiny brush to make sure I got down in there. And that it really wasn't that bad, because once it all dried and I pulled the contact paper off, just a little bit of sanding and it was good to go. So, and actually turned out better than I thought it would, because like I said, I'm not one to do signs and finish stuff, and so that was something new for me.
Now, Chris Glenn just commented here in the chat. He says he's used blue tape and vinyl paint mask from Fellers. I'm guessing that's a supplier. He says, and paint mask works much better. He hasn't tried contact paper, but he does highly recommend paint mask. I was going to ask if anybody had tried any of that. I know they have specialty masking sheets in rolls and what have you. They're made specifically for that. I was wondering if anybody had tried any of those.
No, I haven't.
Yeah. Actually, when I was going around looking for contact paper, I didn't think it was going to be that hard to find. And I went, to, I guess, the big box store, the blue one. And I got some stuff. And I think it's just like contact paper, except it's like, it's got a pattern on it. It's like to line shelves or something. But it's kind of the same stuff. And then I bought some other stuff, and I don't even remember exactly where I bought it. I think I bought it at the hardware store. And I brought it home, and then I got to looking at it, and it says permanent. And I was afraid that I was going to have to get a heat gun or something to get the stuff to come off. So I didn't use that. And then I ended up going to Michael's, which, like I said, they're like a little Hobby Lobby type store. I don't know if y'all have Michael's where you're at or not, but they had the old regular contact paper, like you used to put on school books and stuff like that. At least back in my day, they used to do that. But that's what I ended up using, and I ended up giving the roll away to my buddy Jim, because he's getting ready to make a sign. He goes, "Well, how did that work?" I go, "It worked okay. Here, you can have the whole roll."
Jim Sinicola says
get it going.
Jim Sinicola says there's a product called Oromask 813, and he says it works great. It's got a water-based adhesive, and it doesn't leave adhesive on the project. I've not tried it myself, so that's Oromask.
Where do you find that at?
I don't know. I would imagine Google.
Yeah, I see Kevin Calhoun says dollar store. That's, I'd heard when I read stuff about contact paper in these forums, I remember reading somebody said, yeah, the cheap stuff from the dollar store always seems to work best. So that was one of the first places I went to try to find it, and they didn't have it. In fact, I think that's where I got the one that's got the pattern on it. Now that I remember, I think that's because I asked the lady. She goes, "Oh yeah, we got it right down here," but it wasn't the clear stuff. It had like a
okay.
Pattern.
Hey, Chris Glenn also says the bits need to be sharp. That's for sure. Dull bits will tear up almost any kind of a masking material.
Well, when I did it, the one reason why I was going to try the contact paper is I had a brand new CMT 60-degree V-bit. Yeah, I mean, you know, you can't get them any sharper than right out of the package, and it still didn't do that great. But like I said, I think if you with a down spiral bit, you're probably okay because it's pushing everything down. But up spiral or V-bit or something, it's gonna rough up the edges a little bit.
With V-carving, what I like to do is, once it's cut, is I put a coating of clear varnish on it. I just use an acrylic varnish. And one of the problems when you putting that stuff on, it gets into the V's and you can't get it out. So I then get the air gun out and just blow the stuff out of the V's so that they're not clogged up. After that, I can then go through and paint those V's because the paint will go into them. You can wipe it off the surface once the acrylic's dry. So you can minimize the amount of stuff you end up where you don't want it. And then once you finish, you can then go and sand that polyurethane or the acrylic varnish off. Whereas if you just go along with your paintbrush and try and paint those V's, it's going to soak into the wood, the surrounding surface. Right. You got to sand down half a mile before you actually clear of any paint that has no longer soaked in. But just putting that layer of acrylic varnish on just seals the wood, so it can't go any deeper than that top layer, and you can just sand that off, and you've got a nice clean coat to continue on with.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point, Peter, because what you're doing is when you V-carve like that, that entire V is nothing but end grain, so it's just going to soak straight up and blur the letters. I mean,
that's right. Yes. So if you seal in those letters as well as the surrounding surface, you can then paint those letters, wipe off what you don't want, and it'll probably look fairly clean once you finish wiping it off as well.
Right.
And then you're just clearing up a few smears on top, really, more than anything else.
Yeah, I will say one of the, like I said, I haven't done a whole lot of stuff, but one thing that does come to mind that I haven't done in a long time, but it turned out to be one of the coolest things I ever made. And that was, I took just some regular MDF, and for those of you watching, if you haven't tried this and want to make one, they're really cool looking when you get it done. But I just took some MDF. I used 3/4 MDF, and I went and got some Minwax ebony stain. And I just smeared all on a, like about a 2 foot by 2 foot piece of 3/4 MDF. And I'd put like let it soak in, and, because MDF's going to soak it up anyway. And then put about 3 or 4 coats on it and just get it, ebony is obviously kind of almost looks like black paint. Get as dark as you can. And then cut one of those Aztec Mayan calendar things against, and then when that MDF comes out against that ebony stain, it is cool looking. So I've actually got one hanging up here in my living room. I made mine 22 inches diameter, so it's a big one. But I kind of messed it up because I had it hanging up there for the longest time, and it had really great detail and everything on it. But then I got this crazy idea that I was going to put some of that clear, what's the stuff? What do you call the stuff where you get the hardener and the resin? You mix it all up and pour it on there.
Epoxy?
Yeah. And I did that, and it looks really great if you're standing directly in front of it looking at it. But if you're standing anywhere off, it's so clear and shiny that you can't even tell what it is because you see that glare. So I guess I should add a spotlight or something and put the light on it, and then you would be able to tell. But yeah, I messed up putting that on it because now it just looks like a big round thing hanging on my wall, unless you get right up in front of it to look at it. But
so there's my version of the Aztec calendar, and it's been painted with a metal coloured paint, and
Yep.
then go through with a just acrylic dark paint in there and wipe it off before it gets to dry. So you're I think this is a copper or bronze, might be a bronze coloured paint. It doesn't, the acrylic paint, I just used artist paint in there, and it just yeah, it came out really good.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That
Yeah,
looks fantastic.
that looks awesome.
See if I can get back a bit further in seconds.
Yeah, somebody was
pretty
mentioning in the someone was mentioning in the chat that the softer woods are harder to finish because of the bleed is, you know, a lot more susceptible in the softer woods. And just to show, this is the sign that Dave was talking about.
Yeah.
It's great.
Let me hold it on there. Well, let me lock it on you there so everybody can see it for a minute.
And the
That's
bleed is
awesome.
the bleed is almost. I mean, it's gone. There is no bleed through.
Yeah, that's and tell everybody how big that sign is. Juan.
That is
I mean,
18 inches by 4 feet.
4 feet. Yeah,
That's gorgeous.
that looks awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Makes me want to go get a haircut. Except I just got one yesterday.
And that's
So-
pine.
And that's a good point, is the material you're using will make a difference on your technique. I mean, just the whole thing, you know, what material you're using. So, I mean, that kind of is another piece of the puzzle you got to think about, you know, if you're using an open grain wood like red oak or white oak, especially red oak is really open, and even if you pre-seal it, just because of that open grain, you're going to get so much bleed through that, you know, whereas you pick a close, real tight, like a hard maple or something like that, just the grain itself of the wood, you know, will help you a lot with stuff like that. So choosing the right material can really help with finishing.
Well, something else I want to ask you guys too while you're on here. I've heard that, like when you're getting ready to apply stain, it will depend how much it soaks up based on what grit sandpaper you've used to sand it. Because if you use a real fine sandpaper, that it will kind of close up the pores. Is there any truth to that, or?
Depends on
Yes.
the wood.
Yes.
I
As
would think
Jerry
it would.
said, it does depend on the wood, but what you're getting into is burnishing the wood fibers. And you get that, that's why you don't see very many stained guitar necks, because some people are really into overkill and they'll sand all the way up to 2000 grit. And you're just burnishing the wood fibers, and they don't absorb any kind of a stain. You kind of take a chance if you get over about 320. You can do that. I mean, and you can test it yourself. Get a piece of wood and sand up to 220 on one section, go to 320 on the next, go to 400 on the next, go to 600 on the next, and wipe the whole thing with the same stain, and then wipe it all off at once and see what kind of penetration you get. It can happen. I worked in the cabinet industry, and I've been doing this for a little over 40 years, and I don't, unless I'm doing a guitar neck or something that's going to be handling a lot, I don't go above 220. I'll sand with 100, 150, and then 220, and that's it. That's as fine as I go. So it's just not necessary.
Okay.
One thing
and I
about
see,
stains was, one thing
Go
about
ahead.
stains was that they show up in scratches. If you don't have that nice sanded finish, you really do need to be reasonably fine, or certainly consistent over the surface, because any scratches, they just show up really dark compared to a non-scratch part. Yeah.
Okay. And I see we've got Michael Chipser has snuck in the back door here. Welcome, Michael. Since you're late, I guess we'll pick on you now. What's some of your finishing tips and techniques?
Like I've stumbled upon here, everyone's saying it depends on the material. But primarily what I do is I seal with lacquer, 2-3 coats first, paint over it, and then sand off the top primarily for signs. But for little things like the pin boxes I've been doing lately, I'll just throw some brie wax on it and call it a day. It just depends on the material and the project.
Okay, yeah, that's something Peter was showing earlier, was the brie wax.
Oh, I love that stuff.
Brie wax is fantastic. Yeah.
If I need that stuff done, if I need something done quick, I'll throw brie wax on it, and it takes 30 minutes to dry, if that, and you're done.
Yeah,
And
I've got that written down in my notes here to get some.
And it covers evenly too. You won't get any blotchiness at all.
Yeah, even with stuff like pine or any of those things that you'll get blotchy with the other stuff, you won't get it with brie wax. I can share my screen here in a second, and I'll show you some projects I've done with brie wax, and they look really good, and everyone else that's seen it.
I love brie wax, but it doesn't work very good on MDF.
No.
Depends on how you're sanding. No, I'm messing with you.
Yeah. I screwed one project up with that stuff on MDF.
Whoops. MDF, I prime and paint.
Yep.
Prime it and paint it. And I'm probably, how many people don't prime MDF? How many of y'all?
How many of you guys waste paint? That's what he's asking.
It doesn't matter. Like when I did those lighthouses for the restaurant, those tops were all MDF. I didn't prime any of that. That's like Jerry said, he made that sign out of MDF and sealed it really good. I took 2 of those lighthouses that did not get picked up by the restaurant. Sterling Davis has one. The other one, I put 10 coats of clear over that thing, and it stayed outside a week, started swelling up.
Yeah. It also depends, I guess, with MDF. If you're only using the top of it, the stuff that's already pre-finished, you don't necessarily have to prime that. But if you carve into it or the edges, that stuff will just soak up paint all day long.
Yep.
That's why I seal and prime. Because it
I'll
will
show you a
suck
finishing
it up.
technique. I'll show you a finishing technique for MDF once Michael's shown his pictures there.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Okay, here it is. Just share my screen real quick. Which screen? Oh crap.
And
Do
what
we
kind
have
of-
Russ Meadows in the house?
Yep,
Looks like it.
slipped in the
Okay.
back door.
Yep, there's
I
a
was,
backwards hat.
Made a note,
go.
Russ, I wouldn't forget. I remember your Facebook post. I was going to give you a tip for that.
Yeah, well, you know that guy that comes on before you was a bit long-winded today.
Today.
Yeah, today. He's still going, matter of fact.
Okay, let me lock it on Michael here.
So yeah, so here's one of the signs I did with brie wax. It's the background image is rustic pine and the front is dark brown, the little fleur-de-lis. So that's all brie wax. Just 2 different colors. So, and it's like I said, it takes about 30 minutes to dry, and it off gases a little bit, but after about an hour or so, you don't smell it anymore, and it's dry and it's done.
And look at how even that finish is. That really looks good.
Yeah, very nice.
So, I know Peter said he's going to share some, so I'll unshare.
Go ahead, Peter.
Oh, okay, righty-ho. Let's see if I can't screw this up. How's that? Can you see that?
Well, let me lock it on you here.
There we go.
There we go.
Fake wood.
Right, good. That's it. That's actually just a piece of MDF. That's finished with shellac, coat of shellac, and then I put some acrylic stain, water-based wood stain on it, and then with a little tool, which if I had any brains I would have gone and grabbed it out of the workshop, you can actually put a grain graining tool, I think it's called. And it's nothing but a piece of rubber with some circles on it, half circles on it, really. You can run it over the your surface, and it'll put that grain effect on it. It'll wipe off where it'll wipe some of it off, and those lines are left by the circle pattern on the tool. You just wiggle the tool as you're going, and you end up with a grain pattern on there, and they look really good. Some people just can't tell them apart from actual real wood. And it's very easy to do. You know, this was probably only about my 4th or 5th attempt at doing this. It comes out really good. And then the other option is you can also dry brush the stain on as well, and you get probably more a hardwood look to it as well. It's episode 9 on my videos there, if anybody wants to have a look.
Oh, it's way back.
At that there. Oh yes, it's one of the very early ones. If I can find the tool, I might go and grab it shortly if anybody's interested. But yeah, that's
very cool. I've seen one of those before, that little rubber tool you were talking about, and yeah, it's hard to tell the difference if they do a good job with it. So you would have fooled me on that one just from the picture anyway. But, okay, let's see here. Russ Meadows snuck in here. Russ, you want to introduce yourself before I sign off?
I'll drag up the rear. Yeah. Russ Meadows from the Rusty Nails with a Z Wood Shop. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, just a smidgen of YouTube, anywhere around there.
Okay. And I'm glad you finally made it, Russ, because I was gonna do that. Tell you about that. Whatever it was, you had so the people that don't know or didn't see your Facebook post, you were running some kind of CNC project, and your power went out.
Right.
And you lost your home position or your reference position or whatever you want to call it.
I sure did.
And then you just had to eyeball it.
Eyeball it, and it was not quite close, but it was close enough, but not really good.
Okay. I was going to show, and I know when I start talking about this, I'm going to get all the guys that have machines that have limit switches and all that. I'm going to catch a bunch of stuff from that, but I'm going to show you my down and dirty, easy way. And this is why I've never bothered to put limit switches on my machine for, as long as I've been doing this. But basically, you just have to think about what the machine does when you tell it to home. Basically, what it's doing is it's going to a certain position so that the machine knows where it's at. So all you really have to do is, when you're running something, and you may be like me, because I like to set my 0 in the center of a project. And, I just like to put it right in the center. Well, a lot of times once you've started carving, or whatever you're doing, that area is gone now.
Exactly what I ran into.
You may not be able to find it. But as I recall, that project you were doing was round, was it not?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm drawing just a little thing here, not much. But anyway, let's pretend this piece of paper is your project, and the round part is what you were trying to cut. All right, now, did you have clamps on this as well?
Not clamps per se, because what I was cutting was right at the edge of the round part. But I had made me a pocket out of a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, and I had it set down in there so it couldn't move and stuff. So it was really not a clamp per se.
Okay, so really then my picture, that round circle would represent your pocket then.
Exactly.
Okay, well, basically all you have to do is, and it's really easy when you stop and think about it. All you have to do is pick a spot. I'm going to put a crosshair in the center of that circle, and that will represent where you've set your 0 at before you start carving. But all you have to do is, if you think a little bit ahead, especially if it's a project that's going to take a while carving, you never know when the power might flicker off or something like that. But what I always do is I set my 0 to the center of my blank, and then I'll pick a spot really anywhere. It can be towards me or towards the back or the right or left. It doesn't really matter where it is. But let's just say we've got, I'm going to draw in some clamps here like I would normally have. And we just pick a spot. So what I've done is I've drawn my crude drawing here. I've got my little clamps. I can't point this thing, always works backwards. But you see right up here, I've got like this little circle drawn. Mm-hmm. All you have to do is, if that's clamped and that's not going to move either, is before you start, set your 0 in the center of your material, and then use an MDI command to come out here, you know, and I always try to pick something even, like, you know, 5 inches and 5 inches or something that I can remember, or write it down. You don't want to make it, you know, 5.26, you know, something hard. Just make it some even number, and come out here to some place where you can just bring the bit down, and it doesn't really matter whether you got a V bit or whatever it is. Just bring it down, you know, 100 thousandths, couple 100 thousandths or something like that. And now you've got a position that you can find again if the power goes out. Mm-hmm. And all you have to do is, if the power goes out, you now come over, and when the power comes back on, you jog it over here, you line it up with that, which is going to be much better than trying to eyeball, you know, that center point like you were doing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so you get that thing where it'll go down in there. And of course, since you've gone down a little bit, you want to just set your X and Y there, and then come up and move over to someplace else back on your top of your material again. Set, you know, reset, set your Z, and now you're good to go. Now you can use that MDI command because you know how far it is from here to here. Okay. And you just move it back over there. Reset your 0, and you're good to go.
I got you.
And like I say, I know there's probably folks over there going, just put limit switches on there, you know, but you know, a lot of machines don't have limit switches, and you don't really need it.
Well, you know, I made that pocket, the round was 18 inches, supposedly. And I made the pocket 18 inches, and I couldn't set it down in there far enough because it was tight. And so what I did is I recut it again about a 1/16 of an inch wider, just about half the straight quarter-inch straight bit, and so that made it too big and stuff. So when I went ahead and I got my round inside there, and I stuffed it with the paper on the side to hold it still and level. And when the power went out, I said, "Oh crap!" So I took the piece out, and I measured the circle from top to bottom, and got my longest points, and then I put a mark in the center of the pocket and stuff, and I figured that's close enough. And it still came out pretty good, but it wasn't like it was dead on.
Yeah,
but it was pretty close.
There's nothing worse than, you know, have something that's like a 3 or 4 hour V-carve, and
now
halfway into it something happens and you lose it. That's why I said put a spot. It doesn't really matter where it is, as long as you know how far it is from what your other reference point is.
If you lose, let's say this fixture comes up, for some reason moves on him, and he does lose a 0, he can also, if he's made already one pass, or even if he has to do the whole fixture itself, as long as it's square, work a lot better with a V-bit. But just pick up the edge of your fixture or the edge of the circle if you've done one pass. Once you're in MDI, and then you zero there. You zero at that spot at the edge of the circle. You zero it on your readout on your DRO. Then you come all the way to the other edge of the circle, and then once you're there, whatever the readout is, just divide it by 2, and that'll put you on center. And the same thing with the bottom and the top. And if it's a true circle, of course, no matter where you're at in that position, in that position, you're gonna end up on center. But even on your fixture, probably be better off your whole fixture. Edge of the fixture, zero it out, come all the way to the other edge of the fixture. Whatever your readout says, divide it by 2, go to that spot, and then zero it there. And you'll be able to find your zero no matter where you're at.
Yeah.
On the
the whole point of me going through tonight, I see all the comments about the triple edge finders and all that stuff, and that's great if you got one. But I'm trying to show people how, if you don't have any of that stuff, and you don't have limit switches or homing switches, all that, there's still little tricks you can do to cover your butt in case the power goes out. That's the whole point of this. I'm not trying to bash you guys that have the homing switches and all that, or the triple edge finders and all that. That's all great. But there's still other ways to do it without that. That's all I'm trying to point out here.
Now, Dave, I'd like to add to that too, because it's also, depending on what projects you're working on, you're going to come upon it, even if you've got, and I got it. I've got limit switches on my machine. I've got one of those, triple edge finder blocks, but depending on your project, depending on how you have it clamped to your table, depending on a million things, sometimes those things don't work. Sometimes having limit switches or homing switches will home it on the machine, but it's not going to home it necessarily where you need it to because of the project, or, like we've talked about before on the show, if depending on your clamping situation, you might have to zero off the center of the workpiece. Well, your triple edge finder isn't doing you any good there. So knowing those kind of, little offset tricks like you're talking about, I mean, it's good to know. And I would challenge anyone who thinks that their triple edge finder or their homing switches is going to be their end all be all. I mean, unless they're just doing a certain kind of project, but it'll come one of these days. You'll want that little trick in your toolbox.
Yeah, you would think the more options.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Peter.
I was going to say, it's one of those things where you need to understand what's going on. It's not just having a button that you push that does all this for you. You need to understand what's actually happening, and that's sort of where I come from. I don't use limit switches either. I don't have any objection to people who do. But even homing your machine is no good if you've had a power outage and you don't know what the offset between where the piece of work actually is and where the home is. Because the machine knows where it is, say bottom left-hand corner, okay, I'm machine coordinate 00, but if it doesn't know what the offset is to where the working coordinates are, then it's of no use. You still have to go and find manually some reference point. And I quite often use the trick that Dave uses as well. Drill a little hole somewhere, take it off, got a felt pen, I write on the waste material what coordinate is, and if anything goes wrong, I'm sort of covered there. But yeah, I'm just of the opinion that understanding is very important for that sort of thing.
In fact, I was going to say that. Didn't you do a video on just that very topic, Peter? I think it was called "What's the X for, Dude?" or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be about it. Yeah, I did do something like that.
Yeah, and that's where I got that from, too. And it does work. And yeah, you're right, Mike. There is no one end all and be all. If power goes out and I set my XYZ 0 to the bottom left, I can throw my triple edge finder back up there and find it like that. I'm off and cutting again. But I also have one spot on my spoil board that I've done exactly what Dave has said. I just drilled a small hole, just pecked it with the tip of my bit, and I can go over and set that as my my machine coordinates there. You know, it just depends on the setup that you're using. If you're using fixtures or what have you, yeah. You know, there's more than one way to skin a cat. But, you know, if you're not into skinning cats, you can do it with a CNC too.
Yeah. Now, Juan, did you have something you wanted to add a minute ago?
No, I was good.
Okay. All right. Well, that's my redneck tip of the day. We can call it that.
I opened up a can of worms, didn't I?
Well, I just thought it was funny because when you know, as soon as you posted that you'd lost your zero, all the guys started saying, well, you put limit switches and homing switches on there, you won't have that problem and all that. And I'm like, all it takes is one little thing you could have done before you started, and you wouldn't have had that problem either without all that stuff. So.
Yeah, and if he was off the grid on solar and wind power, the power wouldn't have gone out. So you can what if it to death. So point is,
I have an ups on my machine.
Yeah, you know, at least get to the point to where you can stop it and set your zero. And you know, I need to get one. I think that's an excellent idea, Michael.
And there's you know, 90% of the stuff I do, I don't use that trick. It's only when I'm getting ready to run something that's really long and I go, do I want to waste this much time, or do I want to be able to have, you know, be able to find my way back to where I started?
And Dave, I take a little bit of ribbing because I am that guy that does separate G code for each tool path. That's why I don't want to get into the middle of a 5-hour carve and have to go back through all that. You know, I know which piece of G code I screwed up on. I go in, I load that, and it's done. I start from there. I don't have to try to wade through everything to find the point where I was at, you know.
Yeah, I do separate files also for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do the same thing, Mark. I don't use the automatic tool changer post and then stop and do them like some guys do. I don't.
Right.
It's,
right. Well, I don't.
Because it just makes the programs really long, and like you said, you can. You know, it's like if you got a job and it takes like, say you're using 5 different tools. You know, to me, it's like, well, when you get through with that first tool, it's like, wow, I got through with that one without messing up. No, like, you know, it's like you don't have to sit there and run that long run and then right there at the last minute you have a brain fart and screw something up. You just
exactly. You know, but it also depends. A lot of these guys need to remember that we are home hobbyists. I'm not doing production work, so I can take the time. You know, I'm outside with my machine and I'm doing something else while it's running. So when it's done running a piece of G code, I'm probably ready to go into the house to get something to drink anyway. So that's my break time. It's you know.
Yeah, and I would just caution people if you're doing the tool pass, you know, multiple tool pass or programs like Mark just mentioned, be careful if somebody comes out and starts talking to you, because it's real easy to change that tool and forget to load the next program. You hit the button and the next thing you know, you go, well, why is it going over there? And then by the time you figure it out, it's already running the previous tool path, but with the new tool you just changed and you screw it up that way. Not that I've ever done that now. Nope. Nope. I'm just saying. It can happen. All right, I guess we're gonna get out of here. We're running along again as usual.
Could I plug another YouTube channel?
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna put this over in the chat, and then I will also put it in a comment in the down below after this goes live. There is a YouTuber I follow. His name is Brad Engove, and he primarily deals with guitars, but he is the finishing guru. He talks about everything from painting with spray cans to painting with HVLP equipment, actually using brushes and what have you. And it's primarily guitars, but you will pick up all kinds of excellent tips from him. He works with HVLP equipment, like I say, but he also does a lot with spray cans just because it's accessible to just about everybody. I mean, his last video was on combining a matte finish with a gloss finish to make different patterns. on a guitar body, and it's cool stuff like that. He really does a good job. He breaks it down so it's easy to understand, and you'll pick up a lot of good finishing tips from him. His name is, again, Brad Angove, Angove, and I put a link over in the chat to his channel.
Hey, there was another guy real quick. I can't remember his name. He airbrushed everything. The airplane CNC project.
Mark Graves.
That guy. Check out his
Yep.
channel too.
Mark Graves as well, yes.
He's very good.
Yeah.
Mark Graves is just an artist.
He's into pinstriping cars and motorcycles and stuff now too.
Yep, he's just an artist, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess, man, we've had, for even a boring show about finishing, we've had over 100 people watching at one time. Still got about 80 something now, I think. So I want to thank all you guys for hanging in there and watching. You don't know how much I appreciate your support every week, hanging around with us and watching. I appreciate all you guys on the panel. Jerry, let's see, we lost one Jerry. We did have two Jerrys.
Yeah, he said his computer basically shut down, froze up.
But anyway, if you can hear me, Jerry Brown, thank you, Jerry Brown. Thank you, Jerry Blakesley. Thank you, Juan, Mark,
Thanks, Mark.
Michael Hipser, Michael Mertsky, and of course, Peter Pasqualo all the way down there in New Zealand, and Mr. Meadows. Thanks for being on the panel tonight. And don't forget, folks, next week is the show and tell show. So if you want to show off your stuff.
I had a question about that. Where do they send their photos? Where do they send their projects, Dave?
Well, you can go to either website, either the DaveGatton.com or the GarageWorksCNC.com website, and find the email links. It's Dave@GarageWorksCNC.com. Remember that works is with an X. And the other one, I think, when you click on that email, it'll send it to DaveGatton@att.net. But yeah, any way you want to send them to me. If you don't have my email address, can't figure out how to find it, just send me a Facebook message or something and I'll get it to you. But yeah, if you want to show off your work, and I know there's lots of good stuff out there because I see y'all post pictures on Facebook, so don't act like you don't do anything.
Yep.
I see it.
And don't forget our community forum over there, folks. I take questions from the community forum first, and we didn't get a single one this week. So come on, y'all.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say, we're getting, we've got, I think, 430 some odd members of the Gatton CNC Facebook group. I think we're well over 300 members of the GarageWorks CNC Facebook group, and in the community forum, I think we're up pretty close to 200 folks in there. So appreciate all y'all getting on there and seeing your works, your machine builds, and just all kinds of stuff. So we got a pretty neat little community going on here, and it's all thanks to you guys. So I appreciate it very much. Okay. Yeah, we're at 10:24. I guess anybody else got anything they want to say before we get out of here?
Go make an Aztec calendar.
Yeah, that's like a rite of passage or something.
Aren't they?
Oh yeah, I've made a few of them. If you haven't made one and you own a CNC, stop what you're doing and go make an Aztec calendar.
And a Paradise Box.
I have orders.
Yeah, that calendar is awesome.
Take the next 2 to 3 hours and make an Aztec calendar.
There you go.
Just
I
depending
can't.
on how big you make it. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you much. We'll see y'all next week. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll talk to y'all later.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Don't forget a thumbs up on the way out, folks.
Do it if you can.